Welcome and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Rivulous Irrigation Training Series. I'm Richard Restuccia, and I'm really excited to be talking again this year in particular about saving money. Right? We talk about water management a lot and what that means, and from a conservation standpoint, a sustainability standpoint, how important that is. But man, as I go to the grocery store and I see how much I'm paying for food still, certainly gasoline. I mean, I was just talking with my friends the other day, and we were talking about the stations that are actually under $4 now. Now, on one hand, that's good. It's under $4, but still, that's a lot of money for gas. It seems like no matter what I'm spending on these days, I'm still spending more, even though inflation is slowing down. So then, as a business owner, as an operator, I know one thing that's really important to me is how do I reduce my costs? Because this is how I'm going to be more profitable, right? In 2024, spoke with Cory Broad. He said, man, I've got a whole presentation I can do on reducing irrigation costs this summer. And I said, now that's going to be a popular webinar. And I was right, based on the amount of people who signed up for this. So if you haven't seen Cory speak and present, he does a great job. He's the agronomic sales manager for AvidWater. He's a certified crop advisor. He's a certified irrigation designer. He really cares about his customers. And gosh, I've worked with Cory for a lot of years now, and that is the one thing that is most impressive to me, right? Cory's got a lot of academic credentials. But I will say his commitment to his customers and his commitment to making his customers successful sets a high bar. So, Cory, thanks so much for coming on today and helping us out with this subject of reducing cost in 2024.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the introduction and the kind words as always. And it's an interesting market, right? You referenced some of the things that we all feel as consumers, but unfortunately, the economics in the ag industry, as people who have to buy a lot of inputs, right? Whether you and I are buying fuel to get to work, and our customers are buying fuel to power equipment and engines and all the processes that need to happen. And so the cost of those inputs continue to build up over time and haven't fully relaxed compared to some of the highs from a few years ago. And so that's kind of still plaguing a lot of our customer base. And then obviously you kind of have changes in commodity pricing, crop pricing, and kind of what's going on there. So I wanted to kind of explore that and kind of say, hey, this is the discourse that we're having with our customers and what we're doing as a leader in the space to really help our growers be sustainable, as you referenced, not just on the conservation side, but there has to be an economic sustainability model as well, and kind of where we partner in with that.
Yeah. So, Cory, is this something your customers, the growers that you work with, the farmers you work with, bring up to you, or do you have to bring it up to them?
It's a mix. I think that if you're listening to your customer and you're in that true partnership position with the customer, it's coming up naturally, right? It's not this, hey, Richard, I need to do this. It's an understood scenario, and we're kind of working through it together. I would say that our business overall, we have so many people that are plugged into the community and that live and operate in the farming communities. 15 retail locations across California. We have a very California-centric idea of things, but we work with so many different crops and in so many different markets, and people who are literally farming themselves that work here, all the way to people in roles like mine that are just, trying to do the best we can to help our customers grow. We have those partnerships. We're getting that information pretty regularly, but there are times too where, we have to kind of, I'll say, let the guard down a little bit and say, Richard, I am here to help you. And here's some ideas that I have. Maybe we weren't thinking about it. Maybe it wasn't top of mind over the last, 3, 4, 5 seasons, but I want to meet you where you're at, and then here's how we can move forward as a partnership. So I think it comes from both angles.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear. So, well, good. We're excited to get into it and see what you have to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously we want to focus on the season ahead. It's, I guess, February tomorrow in California, and so pretty crazy. There's already bees out by the road in the almond orchards, and I've seen some photos online of some bloom already, which feels early, but nonetheless, we have a season ahead of us. I think the ag economy is going to be pretty challenging in 2024. I think that doesn't have to just be a California picture. I think there's some discourse out there for the national market and kind of what's going on. And really that's forced Avid as a group to sit back and say, how can we better partner with our customers? And one of the things that we've done recently is even as aggressive as a performance money back guarantee, and that's kind of the synopsis of this whole presentation. I mean, we've marketed this. That was the basis of our kind of booth and presentation at the Almond Conference this year. We had flyers. It's in print to say, Richard, I'm here to save you money. I'm here to work with you. If I take you on as a customer and maybe one of these areas, that's my commitment to you, is to say, hey, we're going to work together to save you money. And again, this is kind of coming out of this, depressed crop pricing market, specifically permanent crops in California. You have almond pricing, the walnut scenario that's gone on for a couple of years, the instability in the grape market. And that could be, again, from wine grapes all the way to raisins. And so, one of the things, again, like that comes up right away is water treatment. Well, that's because in these permanent crops, you have to keep irrigating. And so growers have to keep spending money on protecting their irrigation system, protecting their soils, protecting their crop. We have to be able to come in and say, how can I help you spend less on chemistry and still get great service? Labor costs, we all understand, labor changes in the market, availability. You talked about, buying food at the grocery store. People are trying to, increase their income overall. So these labor costs have grown exponentially in the ag market. So again, what does Avid say about that? What can we do to fix this issue or help resolve it? Automation, irrigation as a service, which we'll get into a little bit later, water management services, kind of make sure we're utilizing all of that input well. Water costs and scarcity, that'll continue to be a theme, I think, in California and Western ag production. But again, automation, water management, I think water treatment plays a role in that. These are all things within our company and within this specific department that we say, hey, this is what we're trying to put forward to you as a customer, engage in that partnership and how we can solve some of these challenges. And then, not to be all on the negative side, but what are the opportunities? The tomato production, I think the economics will be good there. The contracts are a little bit more challenging to get this year with some of the reduction in acreage, but I still think there's good profitability for growers. I've heard some optimism in the cotton market, corn specifically for silage in California. I'm just seeing more growers moving this direction, kind of, taking a step back from some of the permanent crop investments. So where do we come in as a partner is irrigation as a service for row crops. We're expanding it this year. And again, I'll get in more detail on that later, but this kind of per acre fee for product and support and service all in one. And again, the theme is review and consult with customers on our services where we can reduce and lock in your costs. So that ahead of time. That's what we're trying to do here in 2024.
Yeah, so great explanation of the season, Cory. Thank you. Got a couple of questions and comments already coming in. And the first one, and I think it's a question a lot of people have, gee, we're paying so much for food right now. Why aren't the farmers just, killing it profitability wise now? Now I see what the commodity markets are doing and how depressed the pricing is. So where's this disconnect?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have a really resilient food system, and there's so much that goes into food production and then food service all the way across this country in order to make it reliable and safe. And so with that, again, we've talked about just simply like labor, we talk about fuel, we talk about all these things. These are all costs that are incurred into the farmer themselves. And so they cannot control the retail pricing. And they really can't control any of the input pricing unless they're going through these exercises like we're talking about today. And so it's just a real challenge for growers to navigate because their flexibility is very limited, right? And it's such a long process to creating these high value ag commodities, as I call them, and going and getting that to your table or to my plate every day. And so it's such a long run, it's such a long use of capital. and they really have no control. And so I would say that remember that the grocery store price doesn't always equal the farmer price.
Yeah. Yeah. Which we understand, right? But whoa, it's I'm sure it's very hard for the growers to take. That's for sure, because everything's getting more expensive for them too. So their margins
Absolutely.
are just, collapsing.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. So on your money back guarantee, can you explain more about that too? Is if I pay you guys, whatever an acre, I'm going to get it back at the end of the year if we don't agree that the performance was good?
Yeah, I think it's a way for us to, again, engage in that partnership and say, Richard, my plan, my goal, our commitment to you is we can provide this service for this amount of money, and here's how I see it paying you back. I simply, we can talk about even just the water treatment business, which we'll get into in a little bit. Here's how much it's going to cost you per acre foot, and here's how much water you're going to need to it, and go through this whole analysis and say, hey, here's how we can do that. And if I take you on as a customer, that's my commitment. And if we don't make that commitment, then let's talk about making you whole. And really for us, kind of, putting ourselves out there and saying, hey, we're going to follow through with this. We're not just giving you a product, we're giving you a service, and we're kind of circling that whole thing together.
Yeah. Wow. That's an incredible money back guarantee. And I don't see it anywhere else. I know your character. I know Eric Olson's character. And man, I know it is a very valuable guarantee.
That's it. And then that's all we have at the end of the day. And an ag trust is everything. And so we feel like we can work with our customers that way. And really it comes from this approach, which is, investment in technology and specifically automation. We've seen the increases. Farmers need it. They're starting to want it. Dealers need to do a better job of supporting it. And we feel like we've kind of assembled a team and a whole commitment to do that. And we've invested in technology across our platforms. Again, hardware and software is reliable and commercial. We're using it the way that we feel like our customers should be using it. And I say that because between irrigation as a service and water management services, we have over 5,000 acres under management across a number of different crops. So we're using that commercial technology every day to operate, automate, monitor, and recommend and consult on these irrigation systems. And so we really understand what that technology needs to do. But perhaps most importantly right now is that technology needs to pay for itself, and it needs to do so quickly. And again, we understand that. And so for us, really as a company, we have to stay with you after the sale. This isn't just a 2024 sale, even though we're talking about the season right now. It's about a long-term commitment. Make sure that it continues to be used, maybe even expanded upon, and that value is really created and maximized. And we've done that by getting a team of technology professionals and kind of integrating into our, what I'd say, more traditional core competencies of an irrigation dealer. And so think of it as, again, agronomy, we have precision irrigation, we have pumps and electrical, we have construction, we have everything that we need to do a full circle project, and then fully own and walk with the grower down that road. And that's where we feel so comfortable with these money back guarantees, because we're so invested in what the farmer is doing. And again, I put it in bold here, solutions that we're providing, we know we have to beat the farmer's current operating costs. That is like number one, only way we're going to start the discussion with you. And if I can't do that, then I don't need to worry about the money back guarantee, because I'm going to say, Richard, maybe I'm not the right fit, or maybe you are doing such a good job that you are actually in that top tier with what you're doing already. But I bet you I could find somebody who isn't. So my time should be spent, right, helping somebody else. And it's okay to have that, discourse with your customer.
Yeah, no, that's great. So let's see some of the details.
Yeah, so water treatment. We've talked about that. I think constant monitoring and service is really, it's the paramount foundation to any efficacy and viability of a water treatment program for the customer. Talking about the right chemistry and the right rate is actually pretty simple. I say that because we have really great people at this. But the reality is that's just the first step. It's about continually refining. It's about taking multiple water samples. It's about understanding and servicing your customer site, understanding their irrigation system. And that's how we're committed to saving farmers money. So think of it this way. You wouldn't just do an irrigation schedule for the year and then never change it just because, well, I normally do this and it works. That happens a lot. I see in the water treatment business in general as well. It's been working, so I just haven't changed the chemistry or haven't changed the amount. Well, maybe we should look at that at the beginning of the season and say, wow, okay, your water source is a little different this year, or what's in your water has changed a little bit. So let's continue to adapt that and refine it. Again, kind of one step further, would you apply fertilizer for a 1,500-pound crop when you have a 2,800-pound yield potential? Most growers would say, absolutely not. I want to maximize that potential. It's the same concept here, right? We want to maximize the potential of that chemistry that we're putting in. So a very simple example, just a half a part per million change, $40 a gallon is a pretty, I'd say, normal rate for chemistry in the market. 2.5 acre feet. That's $16 per acre of chemistry cost right there at half a part per million. So, if I could come to you and say, hey, Richard, by the way, I made an adjustment to the program to start the season, and I think it's actually going to save you about $16 an acre. That's the kind of communication we want to have.
Yeah, no kidding. And then what does this water quality report actually show me?
A lot of things, potentially too much information, which is why, again, we have this expert staff, right? Colin Scholl is our agronomic sales lead for water treatment. And it's going through and it's looking at everything from total dissolved solids to anions, all the way through kind of your core water chemistries, biological activity, a really robust way of looking at your water and saying, here's the constituent that we're trying to treat. And then here's why this is the best solution for it. And again, allows us to continually do that. And what's great is because of our, I'll say, size in the market, the amount of chemistry we buy and how effective we are, we're able to do this for free. So it's easy for us to say, Richard, let me come look at your irrigation system. Let me get a sample and let me run you a report and say, here's what the season cost would be based on what we see today. Now I do another one in March, do another one, and go through this process. And again, continually refine and say, here's how we're, managing this cost for you.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like a great deal. I'd want to take advantage of.
I mean, we're already there servicing the site. So taking another water sample is pretty straightforward for us. So kind of getting into swim and the on-farm water accounting, which is, into more of the technology and monitoring part of our business. We're doing a full monitoring and reporting of an irrigation system, even a ranch, kind of a whole field analysis, this water balance accounting method. And we're looking at as granular as consumption per day on the field to each irrigation event, all the way to this kind of summary, which is kind of the top part of this. I know it's a little busy, but what I'm really trying to show here is we have all of these agronomic tools that are plugged in here, from soil moisture to irrigation performance, temperature, weather, etc. We have all this agronomic data, but we're now giving you economic decision makers and drivers measuring water use efficiency, so you can balance both ends of the picture, not just how good is it for the crop, but also how good is it for the financials. And so, for example, this is a summary period at the top. I put a circle up there just to kind of make it easier to say, hey, there's this small amount of water during this period, but here's the total volume of it. And then based on your cost of buying water or pumping water or getting it from an irrigation district and paying labor to put it on, here's how much water you quote wasted, whether it was surface runoff or subsurface outflow because you over irrigated and it's non beneficial to crop use now. And at first glance, it might be a small number, but there are growers that can look at this number now on a weekly basis, continue to refine their irrigation practices, and maybe that $1,200 kind of deficit, if you will, can actually be reversed. And if not, maybe that number actually grows, right? And so we're really assigning this dollar value to water. And I think one of the misconceptions that I find a lot is, think about a small amount of water over a large area, over a really long irrigation season, right? 6, 7, 8 months, that number grows pretty quick. And if you don't watch that number, that, 0.1 inches, acre inches of water times a number of acres times 6 months, all of a sudden is that, $5,000 to $10,000. I think it becomes that pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's really interesting, right? And I'm always surprised at how many irrigation scheduling programs or people just manually figuring it out don't take into account rainfall and usable rainfall. So this is a pretty smart way to do it. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And so kind of staying on the technology theme, going into more about automation, this is titled Just Turn It Off. I think that's because, setting and forgetting is what I hear a lot of people being sold in the market, whether I'm talking to my customers who heard from another supplier or visited a trade show. But farmers are kind of being pushed this whole, Richard, you could be in Cabo and you never have to be in your field and everything will be great and you could do it all from your phone. Which it can. I know that because we're, controlling systems right now remotely with no issue. But that's a lot to ingest, right? For an owner, for an operator, it's a lot of change for a farming operation to kind of take on all at once. And so what I prefer to kind of work with my customers on is, Richard, let's take your 80 acres of almonds, and it's a single irrigation set. It's pretty, I'll say standard, right? And a 10-year cost of ownership between buying the equipment, having it installed, and having an annual support subscription from me, where you can call me anytime and make sure that everything's up and running. $1,400 annualized, $17.50 an acre. So if you go and you apply, it's standard 44 inches of water, 60 irrigation events over, February to October is not unheard of. And we're just going to turn off the pump. If it takes a half hour of an employee's time and opportunity cost times those events, I'm going to use a pretty reasonable number, probably low if he has a vehicle, but $25 an hour cost to that employee. That's $9 an acre right there, just turning off a pump. If that's a 2-set irrigation system where you're just switching a valve and then finally turning off the pump, that probably just paid for it right there, right? $18 versus your $17.50. I haven't even asked you to turn on the system yet with it. So it's a really, I'll say, easy way for a grower to step into automation and really kind of a low risk activity, just turning off a pump, and something that they can test throughout an entire season, get comfortable with, ask questions, really vet the technology for a really reasonable cost with really some immediate paybacks in it, and not this, hey, Richard, I'm going to change the way you do everything, because that's a lot.
Yeah, I think this is amazing, right? And I think you're being so conservative in this, which I appreciate, but because you haven't even taken out the cost of not running the pump for, the amount of savings you're going to build off that. Because I'm really figuring out that the cost of the electricity is so much more than just the cost of the water in most places. And this is where you really get your biggest savings.
You're spot on. And again, I want to come in as very direct, very responsible, and saying, here's some simple ways to really look at this that I think, again, contribute to the bottom line immediately and don't require too much change on your end. If you did want to go with more change and you did say, hey, full scale automation, we're in a unique position at AvidWater where we have such great partnerships with hardware and software providers. We really have comprehensive solutions. We can basically sell, install, and support any technology growers are looking for. Allows us to get creative, allows us to get super cost effective. We're seeing, again, more row crop irrigation automation because of those acreage shifts we talked about earlier. So, when I'm working on these systems for people, full pump and valve control on, let's say, a multi-set row crop, so, corn, cotton, tomato, etc., I'm seeing that for $275 an acre. And again, if you want to be super conservative and kind of annualize this over a 5-year lifespan, it's $55 an acre. I think that's super reasonable given some of the costs we talked about earlier with labor and so on and so forth. And one thing that's really cool about what we're doing as a group with our expertise is, these systems are really easily expandable and they're movable. So if you say, hey, Cory, I'm only going to farm this for 1 year or 2 or 3, we have a system that, again, can be deployed pretty cost effectively and then now can be moved. So if you're leasing that ground, or you don't have long-term water security there, or you say, hey, I am going to go back into permanent crop production in a couple of years, we could repurpose that equipment there too, or move it into, again, another row crop scheme. So really malleable, really flexible, where farming generally isn't, right? And that's one of the things that we're tailoring our solutions for customers.
Yeah, no, that's right. When you get down to it, what the savings are going to be, this is very affordable, that's for sure.
So irrigation as a service, we've talked about this, I think, in webinars past, and obviously we had a really successful kind of a first launch last year, which is, where we're deploying and automating irrigation equipment and then operating it for the grower kind of in this consultative process, but we're doing all of the heavy lifting and literally operating and executing the irrigation events. We're now expanding that into row crops in 2024. Again, we have this need to reduce operating costs, and you pair that with our company's scale and our core competencies, we can actually offer a full system lease option. Just like in the field that's behind you on your green screen, we could go through, we could install all of the field material plus all the technology material for a fixed fee per acre for the entire season. So now you don't have to go up front and go buy tape and then go buy lay flat and valves and then the connections and then add in that technology that we just talked about in the last slide. And if you really went one step further, you could rent all of your main line from our rental division and our filtration options that are on skids. So if you were saying, I don't know what I'm going to do with this land full time, and I don't want to invest a bunch of money, or I'm going to be making some changes, you can essentially not own the entire irrigation system and still have irrigation support and an entire system throughout the year. And to kind of show an example of this, 80 acres of cotton, tape, lay flat, valves, fittings, connections, all of that technology gear, plus the installation from AvidWater. You could basically have us irrigate using the system for the entire year. We're doing that weekly consultation, kind of that walkthrough with you. Say it's $800 an acre. It's billed progressively throughout the season. So you're not having to pay for, again, tape, lay flat, fittings, etc., all up front while you're waiting for crop payments for 6, 8, 9 months. So we're improving that cash flow. Again, we're trying to work and really lean into this partnership with our customers to say, hey, we are literally farming with you. We're irrigating with you. We have a team of people, right, with all these great designations in the ag business to say, hey, we're ready to take that next step in the market where I think other people are probably not there yet.
So this is me just completely subbing this off to you.
Subcontracting would be a great way to look at it. Outsourcing you're still involved in the sense that we want your approval on what we're doing, because really the farmer knows best at the end of the day. We have a lot of data, we have a lot of experience, so we have a lot of cool stuff. But I want to say, hey, Richard, that crop that's behind you, you've grown it for a long time, but here's the whole system that's all been put together. And we're going to walk through this season together, but we're going to do 90% of the legwork. You just need to approve of the plan that we're going forward with.
Right. So I'm not going to have to really worry about it. I'm not going to have to check with my irrigator. Did you turn it on? Did you turn it off? All this. And I think, Cory, if I ask you ahead of time, you'll give me an estimate of how much I'm going to save too, right? To offset that 800 per acre.
And that's part of that consultative process, right? Leaning in and saying, here's what this can look like based on what you want to do. And again, it's hard to say because some growers, for drip tape, might use a 6 mil product, and other growers want to use a 10 mil or a 13 mil. And so there's some changes there, right? And some annualization that needs to happen. But yes, that's part of that process. That's part of sitting down with our team and saying, okay, what are your goals? And then how can we do this together to make it make sense? Because again, as part of like this guarantee, this package, it has to come from both sides, and it has to be, rooted in numbers and very clear to both parties.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. That's really a nice service.
So, if I was going to package it up, put a bow on it and kind of look through, We talked about water treatment. We have a great service design program. We have expert staff. We're going out there, and I've seen us, beat other solutions providers by just, I'll say, being more diligent, and kind of rounding that number down even from earlier, $15 an acre. I mean, half a part per million. It's not unheard of. Automation. We have all the platform options, tons of flexibility in our design process, giving you best upfront cost, but also long-term support. Kind of winding that number even back down again, another $15 an acre. Irrigation as a service. So we talked about reducing labor. You mentioned energy earlier, water use efficiency. What's the value of that money by improving that cash flow? Kind of aggregating all the purchases of products in one area, kind of taking advantage of discounts there. Again, a rough number. You wanted it, right? I knew you'd ask, okay, is it $200 an acre right there? I think we should sit down and we should look at that and kind of see what we could do for people's operations. And then SWIM and WMS, unique in that, we're providing this monitoring and or consulting for your business and your systems. It's zero money out of pocket. We're deploying the technology. We own the technology, and then you're just paying an annual bill for it. And, a simple example that I've seen many a times in like our WMS program is $100 an acre foot water cost, which is a pretty, I'll say, reasonable pumping cost in California. 5 inches of water, acre inches of water is $40 an acre.
Yeah.
I mean, it really doesn't have to be that hard to dial that in and say, hey, here's how I'm saving you money, and here's how we're going to do it while producing great crops and, keeping a sustainable eye in your operation.
Yeah, I the one thing I look at that, and maybe you can help me out if we go back to the slide before, how do I decide, right? There's a lot of options there. What do you recommend for somebody as to how to decide what do I do here?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it's part of the engagement. It's part of the process is sitting down and saying, okay, what's going on in your operation, right? I mean, most operators are going to know probably pretty quickly the areas that they can improve on or where, we should be looking, but open the door and lean into the partnership as well. And we can look at it and say, Richard, look, I understand capital's limited, things are tight. Here's, the first area we should focus on and why. It's my responsibility to put together a business case for you to say, hey, here should be the priorities, in my opinion, and here's why. Yeah. And then here's the strategy for addressing those. Again, it's about having that partnership. Tax season's right around the corner now, right? And again, you can do your taxes on your own, or you could, have somebody looking at your operation, invested in, your business, and saying, hey, as a professional, here's where we can make a difference. And I think that's what we're really trying to promote and communicate to our customers. It doesn't cost you anything to have a discussion.
Very nice. So Cory, after watching this, if I have some more questions, I want you to come out, take a look at my operation. How do I make this happen?
Yeah, here's my contact information. Watch all the webinars. That's always a good way. But obviously, I'm based out of Fresno, California, but I have a great team of people spread all across the state, all the way from the desert region to Northern California. We have 15 retail locations as a business across California. So even if I'm not right next door, we have so many great people everywhere. And we work together as a cohesive unit. It's super easy to make sure that we can have somebody on site, boots on the ground pretty quick, work together. But here's my contact information. Again, I have a great team of people that support what we're doing here. And so I'm sure one of them is located at a farm near you.
Yeah, no kidding. And I really want people to reach out and call Cory. You're getting so much expertise here, so much knowledge, and he's not going to charge you a thing for it. So I really hope that you'll take advantage of that. Look, he's got his cell phone number and his email. Please reach out to Cory. So Cory, what a great job you did again today. You know, really taking what is a complex subject matter and boiling it down so we can easily get it. And man, I get the savings that are available to me, not just in money, but time. And that means a lot to anybody trying to operate a business these days or a farm. So thanks very much for doing that.
No, appreciate the opportunity and the platform and kind of share what we're doing. And it's been an exciting kind of first year for Avid, and we're really looking forward to this season. Again, we know there's challenges present, but we're definitely the right company to tackle it. Again, based on our competencies, our scale, expertise, and I'm just excited to be part of that team and part of a really dynamic company.
Yeah, and then January 31st. I mean, my head's spinning. This year is already going by so fast. I think about the season. Yeah, it's getting ready to start. Well, World Ag in a couple weeks, and then we're off to the races. So,
yep, we'll be at World Ag. So please come by and visit us in Pavilion B.
yeah, great. Another opportunity to ask Cory some questions. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining today. Really appreciate it. And you know, you can watch any of our over 300 webinars that we've done for almost 4 years now for free at janesusa.com/trainings. We also make this available to anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can find us there too. It's always very inspiring to me to know that many of you are out there working and educating at the same time, and that we're a part of that. That's really great. So Cory, again, thanks for coming out. Looking forward to seeing you and everybody else at World Ag in a couple weeks. And we'll hope you come back and join us again in the springtime for another session.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Cory. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of the day and try to stay dry out there.